Just chill out.
Three bikes dominated the 20th century. Does the same pecking order prevail in the new millennium? First up, the Kawasaki ZX-9, the one that had to improve the most. And judging by this, the one that did. Next, it was the one they thought just couldn't improve, the legendary R1. That is, until they rode it. And lastly, the one that actually did improve the most, the Y2K Honda Fireblade, and made this year's competition so close as to be virtually inseparable. So how did they all get this good? First off, Martin Lambert from Kawasaki.
This is the new ZX9 E model for year 2000, which supersedes the C1 and C2 ZX9s. Starting with the front end of the bike here, we see the discs are up in size this year to 310 millimeters, and also we've got the new 6-spot calipers. Interesting thing about these calipers is it's the variable size of the pistons in the calipers. The first piston is smaller than the second two, which means you get initial bite and feel from the brake. So that's a very good improvement in brake feel for this year. The front forks themselves are changed in specification, and the engineers at Kawasaki have decided to pre-polish the springs for instant action. What this means is that the oil inside the fork travels over the spring a lot easier right from the word go. This is the business end of the new ZX9, and we've got the twin headlamp aggressive fairing for year 2000. There's a couple of reasons for this, but I think the primary reason is it looks absolutely excellent. And this really big scoop for 2000, you can see that this is a shared feature with the new ZX6 and the new ZX12. And this allows far more air into the ram air system and increases the pressure on the air filter assembly and really gives that supercharging effect. The chassis itself is based on World Superbike technology. Up at the front end, the steering pipe, the steering head end has been massively gusseted and put together really strongly to make sure that there's really strong control at the front. At the rear end, and this is something especially for fast bikes readers, you've got a detachable rear subframe. And don't forget that we've seen the video where you flipped a ZX9, so this is very important for those essential crash repairs. Also, we've got a new rear suspension unit here for the year 2000, and it features a new ride height adjuster. Now, for those of you guys out there that's going to do track days, something like a ride height adjuster along with the multi-adjustable front suspension means that you can load the front end up and do all the things that really mirror everything that's going on in the world of superbike today. When you look through the technical spec of these bikes, like the dealers do, they wonder why the output shaft is all offset and things like this. Well, it's to accommodate this huge 190 section rear tyre now. And along with that, the control you get from that is also aided by this new swing arm. It's called a pentagonal structure, but all you eagle-eyed fast bike readers out there will see that if you add up all the sides, it doesn't quite come to a pentagon, it's a little bit more, but what it means is it's very strongly braced, and there's no need for the subframes or any other stress-bearing members to be added to it. So it aids in unsprung weight and aids in the excellent handling of the new ZX9.
The man with the easiest sales pitch in the world has to be Jeff Turner at Yamaha.
So this is the year 2000 R1.
First thing we need to do before we go through the changes maybe is get it out of the crate.
I thought this was a stabiliser unit.
Well, we thought about leaving it on as crash protectors for you, but we decided it probably wasn't strong enough.
What exactly has changed on this year's bike?
Yamaha have made 250 changes on the new 2000 R1, some of them for weight, some of them for lightness, some of them for performance, and some of them for rideability. So let's start with the major changes and start with the frame. Looks very much like the old frame, but Yamaha did a lot of research to say that the mounting between the cylinder head and the frame is really important, and the rigidity of the frame between the cylinder head and the steering head is very important. So that's all been beefed up considerably to improve the handling under braking. The front forks have been considerably revised. They have a new damping system which limits the amount of travel when the brakes are on, and the quality of the fork has been improved. So one of the biggest performance areas you'll notice is braking into corners. It's got new ignition mapping and new mapping for the X-up, which gives it a broader spread of low-end power. Getting the power down, there's a new rear shock on the rear, which is multi-adjustable for compression, rebound, and obviously preload, with new adjusters and new compression rates. We have new tyres, we have a titanium exhaust, the rear subframe has been heavily modified, the riding position is more roomy, lighter clocks, slimmer, with multifunction with odometer, new fairing with slightly more aerodynamics. So a bit of everything has changed on the R1, not one particular item, but 250 items which, when all added together, make the best better.
Why do you feel it's so important to make all those changes to make to keep improving it? And now that you have improved it, do you think you've done enough, sort of compared to the latest crop from Honda and Kawasaki?
Certainly the R1 was hard to improve on, and what we asked the factory to do was for the R1 to keep its image as the top sports bike, to keep the top end performance, the handling, the chassis, the brakes, the engine, keep them as radical as they were, but also to perhaps make the bike more rideable for everyday use. I mean, obviously people will be riding this around town and using it on a daily basis as well. So the challenge to the factory from the markets was keep the R1 as it is, but make it more usable. Don't lose it, don't soften it at the top. It's lost none of its aggressive appeal, but it has got a little bit more practicality thrown in. And of course, the development for the 2000 R1 pretty much started as we launched the original R1 back in 1998. So there's 2 years more attention to detail on this machine.
And finally, the one we wanted to hear about most, the new Honda Fireblade, presented by one of the men who helped develop it, Dave Hancock.
Yep, well really everything's changed on the bike, from the swinging arm to the chassis, brand new chassis. The engine is totally brand new now with redesigned exhaust system and exhaust valve. So I would say probably it's a completely new bike.
With all those improvements, do you think Honda have done enough to overtake the competition?
I think so actually. I think what we did is, what we didn't want to do was to follow, obviously the R1 is the main competitor for the machine. What we didn't want to do was to follow the R1 and just make it 1000cc and say, right, you know, it's another R1 just with a Honda badge on. So what we actually did is we concentrated on power to weight, and you'll find actually with the weight of the machine, which is 7 kilograms lighter than the current R1 as it was then, the power to weight actually is number one in the category of super sports bikes now.
As usual, it was down at the Dyno Room where the bullshit stopped. And no surprises as far as the R1 was concerned.
It's exactly the same as last year's.
It became apparent right from the start though that the blade was well up on last year.
And that's the new one, the top line, which I think is about, according to my trusty computer, 117.5 for the old one, 133 for the new one.
And between the R1 and the blade,
Not a lot in that, to be honest with you.
if it became apparent that the blade was well up, it was obvious that as far as the ZX9 was concerned, something was just plain messed up. In short, it had been fast-biked.
Frosty!
But the ZX9 didn't need to prove itself in the Dyno Room, because it did so more than adequately at the strip, besting the blade and the R1 on every run. 170 mile an hour beats 166 and 167 every time. Acceleration between the blade and the ZX9 was a little closer. But when the R1 was dialed into the equation and allowing for Gary's cheating, the Yamaha had the edge. As far as the launches were concerned, Kawasaki were the first to reveal their hand. No one particularly drastic change, but a lot of little modifications that all added up to a much more user-friendly package. With his, not to forget Jimmy's reputation firmly preceding him, Frosty decided it might even be better to go a little incognito.
Hi, my name's Kevin Schwantz, and I've just been persuaded out of my retirement by a little old Fast Bikes magazine to come and do a couple of laps of the Misano race circuit, so here goes. Turn 1, third gear on this ZX9 motorcycle. This is the famous corner where my good buddy Wayne Rainey broke his back. Don't like that corner. Turn 2, fourth gear. Turn 3, second gear. Careful. Turn 4, 5, we take the fourth gear. Turn 6. Woo! That's a goodie. Turn 7's a bitch. Third gear, 180 degrees. Oh yeah. Now we're up to turn 8. Beautiful little second gear. Right kink. Getting kind of swirly on the entry. With the Kawasaki gearbox coming into the chicane here. Third gear. On the exit. Go shift to 4. 4. Another nasty 180 hairpin. Third gear here. Second's a little grabby. Nasty bump. Another little chicane on the start finish. This would normally be third, but I'm going to go down a second just so I can show off. Never works, does it? Try that wheelie again. That was a little better.
Before too many laps, it had become obvious that Kawasaki had made some major improvements to the ZX9's handling. Though nothing short of a world superbike racer can cope with this fourth gear 140 mph left. What did become apparent, however, was that however much the bike had improved, the original equipment, Bridgestone tyres, just weren't up to it. After all, Rob Frost getting past at a launch is somewhat unique. But that's just about what's going to happen to him. And after this moment, only one thing for it. Swap the OE Bridgestones for a set of Dunlops.
Okay. Let's see what difference a new set of tyres makes.
A hell of a lot, as it happens. About 3 clear seconds a lap at Misano. And with the new boots on, they just couldn't prise Frost off the ZX9. Actually, even the sun started to go down before Frost did. Though he did make a passing attempt at it. Unfortunately, after the end of day one, the sun never came out again. But while other testers were quietly stuffing their faces in hospitality suites, Rob was out there yet again taking it to the max.
Fucking hell.
And the verdict? In the wet, the ZX9 was good enough not just to best anything on the road, but even win production races. I mean, is this boy mad or what? If the Yamaha R1 was generally regarded as standing at the top of the superbike pile, they certainly weren't taking it for granted. Over 250 changes to the Millennium bike, and most of them to do with the chassis. This may seem odd, but despite the fact that most people had raved about the bike's handling, those that raced them and really pushed them to the edge knew that there was room for improvement. It didn't take long for Rob to realise that the factory had made most of those improvements, and that in the Y2KR1, Yamaha had produced a bike that now handled every bit as well as the Honda Fireblade. This new level of handling, combined to the R1's almost unique power to weight ratio, meant that it now truly looked like it was the all-round package to beat. the final verdict on the R1? Rob wanted a race one. The last manufacturer to reveal its hand was the one we'd all been waiting for the most, and if the company propagandists were to be believed, the Y2K Blade was an essentially all-new bike. Certainly, the Estoril circuit in Portugal was an all-new track surface. But not one that particularly won the hearts and minds of the assembled testers. In short, it was so dusty it made the Sahara look like it had moved north about 1,000 kilometers. This made the racing line very, very thin indeed, and meant that any drifting off it would probably end in disastrous consequences. The bonus for Frost, at least, was that for a 2-week period he held the 2-wheeled lap record. This was more testimony to the blade's balance than his. And in fact, not one journalist went down over the entire 3-day period. But just when it was looking comparatively safe and under control, Ron Haslam came out to play. And if there's one thing to wind up a magazine racer, it's another racer, especially one with a very famous name. In all his GP career, Haslam was probably never in as much danger as this. It really only could ever end one way. But yet again, Frosty fluked it.
Just got on the dust and the front went.
Oh, you dropped it, did you?
No.
Oh, no, I thought you had. Oh, God, that was close.
It was just like a wide line, you know.
Yeah.
You just can't do it, can you?
No.
And so to the bit we just couldn't resist, even though we said we would. A head-to-head across our favourite roads of the south of France. In real road riding conditions, there was soon no doubt about the real accelerative powers of the R1. Time and time and time again. As far as the roll-ons were concerned, the Yamaha just blitzed them. And even in third place, the blade takes no time to reach 170 mile an hour. At the round-the-corner wheelie competitions, there was even less in it between the ZX9 and the R1. And as far as straight line wheelies were concerned, it was even closer. As for top speed, just as at the strip, there was never a doubt in it. Check out the blade's mirrors and watch what's creeping up and then blitzes away. The ZX9, of course. On the faster sections of the A roads, there was absolutely nothing in it between all three bikes. Actually, if anything, the ZX9's softer suspension and sweeter steering perhaps gave it the edge. But once the road got really nadgery, the blade could have taken the others at will. As you can see, in almost all respects, you couldn't find a more perfectly matched trio. So what else can we say? When you can keep it up this long, who needs any other ride?